bread kitchen. This week I'm going to make a Greek bread which is associated with Easter. It comes with its own Easter eggs and it's called Tsoureki. So we'll start with the yeast. I've got 175 grams of lukewarm milk. I'll add in 3 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of dried yeast. Mix it all together. Then leave for about 10 minutes for the yeast to get going. In this bowl I'm putting 450 grams of strong white bread flour and 50 grams of softened butter cut into little pieces. And get your hands in and rub the butter into the flour. Once all the butter's rubbed in, we can add in some spices. So I've got a teaspoon of allspice and half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And I'm also adding in half a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of caraway seeds. Now mix them all together. Now the purists will tell you that to make tsoureki you really need a spice called malab or malepi. It's made from the ground stones from wild cherries. Now depending on where you live, it can be either very difficult to find or very expensive. In my case it's both. So I'm using a combination of spices which approximates to the kind of taste you'll get from malab. When it's all mixed, make a well in the centre and pour in 2 beaten eggs and your milk, yeast, sugar mix and mix to a nice smooth dough. And what you'll end up with is a dough that's a little bit sticky, not too bad. Now I'll turn the dough out onto a surface and then knead it until it's nice and smooth and elastic. So after about 10 minutes of kneading, you should end up with a dough which is smooth, slightly tacky and very springy. Pop the dough into a lightly greased bowl, then cover and leave in a nice warm place until the dough has doubled in size. Now for decoration, I'm boiling 3 eggs in water for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, pop the eggs onto a wire rack to dry. Now mix together a tablespoon of white vinegar, a teaspoon of water and 1/4 teaspoon of red gel food colouring. Now a word about red food colouring. Whenever I'm baking I like to use gel food colourings because they tend to keep their colour during cooking. Liquid red food colouring in particular has a nasty habit of changing colour, usually to brown, not very appetising at all. And while the eggs are still warm, just roll them around in this solution for a minute or so. You can see I've got a glove on here because I don't want my hands ending up all red. Then pop them back on the wire rack to allow them to cool completely. My dough's risen very well, so I'll just turn it out. Comes out really easily. I'll knock it back to get rid of any air bubbles. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the grated zest of an orange. Now you might reasonably ask why I'm adding the orange zest now and not at the beginning with all the other dough ingredients. Well, the answer's very simple. I forgot. And I'll just fold it all in and knead the dough for a couple of minutes. After a few minutes kneading, you can pop it back in the bowl, cover and pop back in the warm place until the dough has doubled in size. Now when the eggs are cold, take a piece of kitchen towel, just fold it into 4, pour on a little bit of olive oil and then rub each of the eggs all over. It makes them nice and shiny. It's risen very nicely again, so I'll turn it out, knock it back, get all the air out. And then I'm going to split the dough into 3 equal pieces. Now I'll take each piece of dough and roll it out to about 15 inches long. Okay, that's good. So I've got 3 nice long pieces of dough and now I'll plait them. Just push the ends together. And plait away. Now when you get to the end, plait as much as you can and then tuck under the bread to create a nice end. At the other end, slice off the very end of the dough with a sharp knife. And then plump under. Make a nice tidy end. Now transfer the bread onto a lightly greased baking tray and push the eggs in. Now pop it in a nice big plastic bag and leave in a warm place for about half an hour to 40 minutes to prove. Now before baking, I'm going to brush with a glaze of 2 teaspoons of honey with 2 teaspoons of water. And finally I'll sprinkle on some flaked almonds that I've cut into slithers. Now bake at 170 fan oven, 190 normal oven for 30 to 35 minutes. Once baked, we can slide it onto a wire rack to cool. The bread's lovely and soft with a hint of spice. The bread's really soft and it kind of reminds me of hot cross buns without the fruit. You can peel the eggs and they're perfectly edible. I hope you enjoy making your tsoureki and do join me next time in the bread kitchen.